Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show here on the Voice of College Football Clemson channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. We got a good show, a great show for you guys tonight. As you guys know, ACC Media Days just wrapped up. So we got some stuff to talk about coming out of ACC Media Day. We also have some recruiting news. We'll put a kind of bow on Corey and Gibson and our latest commit, and then maybe talk a little bit about where the class goes from here, what we need to still do, and the work that still needs to be done as far as on the recruiting trail. And then we'll get into everything else, of course. But I do thank you for being here. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Both myself and Jordan, we're really trying to grow this channel. We're trying to bring more people in and get more eyes on this channel, talking about Clemson football, talking about college football, and everything in between. Please go ahead and hit that like button for us as well. This is a live video, as you guys know, and those likes really help us out on the live videos. But without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, my buddy, Jordan Bowman. Jordan, how you doing tonight, man?
Great, man. Glad to be back. I mean, just got back from the beach. I was at Carolina Beach over the weekend, so that felt good. Just kind of get away, get out of town, and kind of do some stuff. And it's been a pretty eventful week. I mean, Corey and Gibson actually committed to Clemson while I was on the beach, so that was pretty fun. And then obviously we had media days today, and so we've got a lot to talk about, man.
We do have a lot to talk about, man. It's crazy. We're something like 38, 39 days away from kickoff of the 2023 season for our Clemson Tigers. As everybody knows, our Clemson Tigers kick off on Labor Day night, a Monday night standalone game against Duke, and we are edging ever so closely to that, man. So there's a ton to talk about. ACC Media Days was, there was a couple little sound bites that came out of there, a couple things to talk about. But how was your week, Jordan?
Yeah, other than the beach trip, just really, really busy. But just kind of when I got back, I took a day to kind of relax, and then it was kind of back on the grind. So, just been keeping on. How about you?
And I tell you what, my week has been actually not even just this week. My past couple weeks have been absolutely slammed um, with work and everything in between. Man, it's been a crazy couple weeks, but nonetheless, I'm excited to be on the All In Show. I'm excited to be chopping it up with you about our Clemson Tigers. So all is well, and I can't wait to get into the show tonight, man.
Absolutely.
All right, so I guess we'll kick off the show tonight with a shout out to the comment section before we get into the few topics that we have tonight. We got Tricksters in the chat giving you a shout out first and foremost, Jordan. So
I think that's my man Brady.
there we
I
go.
feel like I think that's him if I remember correctly.
Shout out to Tricksters. John Sarian's in here as always. No real revelations this week, but dang, I am so ready for football. Getting more excited to see Shipley and Maffa in action. I think we're all excited to see the new offense on the field, right? We're all excited to see what this offense is going to look like under Garrett Riley and how he's going to use the personnel that Clemson has. So I think we're all excited for the season. Like I said, 38, 39 days away, depending on if you count game day or not, right? Ben Adams is in here as well. Not me. What's that? Shout out to Ben. Yeah. Not me is in here. So thank you guys for getting into the chat section already. As you guys know, man, at the end of the show, me and Jordan we'll hit up the chat section. We'll ask you guys what you want to talk about. We'll address any of your questions that may arise throughout the show. But without further ado, man, let's get into tonight's topics. We got 13 people in here right now. So we got some good news this past Saturday, as you know. Defensive back Corian Gibson committed to the Tigers. 6 foot, 170-pound defensive back. Kind of a rangy guy. He's a longer guy. Probably needs to get into the Clemson program, add a little bit of weight to help him with his tackles and stuff like that. But he's a track guy, right? He's got some serious speed, some ability to stay with receivers, challenge catches at the very end, right as the pass is coming in. So what was your thoughts Saturday as we added yet another defensive back to this 2024 recruiting class? What do you think of Corian Gibson?
I think it's a huge get. I mean, I think the rating, justifies how talented he is. I mean, you kind of already pointed it out. The speed is what jumps off the page. I think he's a cornerback that can play at multiple positions. He can play in the slot. He can play nickel. He can play on the outside. He's shown the ability to be able to run with receivers. He's got great coverage skills. The way he plays the ball, I think, really jumps off the screen when you look at his tape as well. So this is a really nice get from Mike Reed. This was a recruitment that kind of went back and forth over the course of his recruitment. Texas had been on him for about 2 years, and when Clemson showed interest, he kind of gave them the indication, hey, that was kind of the offer I was waiting for. It was kind of his dream school growing up, and it was a really big deal that he got an offer. But even still, he wanted to take his visits. He wanted to see multiple schools. Ohio State got in there. He definitely got some interest from Ohio State in May and early June, and it seemed like Ohio State was going to be a player. Clemson actually thought Ohio State was their biggest threat as far as their being able to get Corian Gibson. But he came to the All-In Cookout. Not the All-In Cookout. He came into the official visit weekend. All-In Cookout's coming up tomorrow. But he came to the official visit weekend, had a great time, but he did not commit. A lot of people thought he was. He had given indicators that he was going to have an early commitment, but Texas and Ohio State convinced him to put that off. He canceled his Alabama visit, but he still ended up taking visits to TCU and I'm sorry, not TCU, Ohio State and Texas. And Texas felt like they were probably the most confident through and through with their recruitment. They, the home state school. They had all the ties. There was a lot of people in Corian's circle that wanted him there. His best friend Jordan Johnson Rubel, another 4-star defensive back, is currently committed. So Texas kind of felt like a lot of those relationships that Corian Gibson had would be enough to kind of win over his recruitment. But at the end of the day, I think Corian really wanted to be at Clemson. It was his dream. He loved everything about the school. And despite what Texas insiders and people were saying about Corian, his closer family members, like his parents, there was some sentiment in the family that they wanted him out of the state. And when you can win over the parents, and not just the kid, but the parents, it's pretty hard to beat.
There you go.
So, Texas's excitement and confidence kind of was pretty consistent throughout up until about that Thursday or Friday when it kind of started dwindling. But Clemson was always the pick, I think, and knowing what we know now, and this is a great get. This is one of those recruitments where it's like you beat out a big time player for an in-state kid that had a lot of ties to Texas and a lot of relationships with Texas. And we know the NIL machine that they have over there, and you were able to beat out a lot of those factors. So, I mean, this is a massive get for Clemson as far as their recruiting class. And this is kind of puts a bow on the defensive back class. There's nobody else. They're done at DB at this point. So this puts a really nice cherry on top to a really strong defensive back class for Mike Reed and Mickey Kahn and the defensive staff. So, welcome to Clemson, Corian Gibson.
Yeah, welcome to Clemson, Corian Gibson. We are excited to have you. And I don't think one of the last points you made, I don't think can be understated, right? We live in an era of college football where NIL deals and, this money that recruits are being paid is so prevalent in our game right now, right? You got teams recruiting your current roster. You got teams trying to pry your current commits that haven't even signed their letter of intents, right? And in order to beat a school like Texas, right, that has much deeper pockets, let's be honest, than a school like Clemson, just judging off the alumni base. I mean, just take that. And their alumni base is far bigger. Their reach is far bigger than Clemson as far as the different pockets that they can collect from, if you will, for their NIL funds, right? So in order to get a guy like this, it's really encouraging. I think you make great points about his parents being on board. When you get the people that this kid is in the house with every single day on board, and it seems like Clemson and the rest of, Mike Reed and the rest of the Clemson coaching staff was really able to sell this guy on the culture that Clemson has and, what their true approach is for every single student athlete that comes to Clemson. As everybody knows, I mean, Dabo Swinney says it all the time, and sometimes people just pass it off as coach speak, but it's truly graduation first, right? They really do want every single player to graduate, whether they have all the success in the world on the field and make it to the NFL. That's the hope for a lot of guys that come to Clemson, right? But that's not reality for the majority of people that are going to come and play football at Clemson, right? It's just not. If you're talking about the percentages that make it to the NFL, that's not reality. So getting that degree, growing up in a culture that Clemson and an environment that Clemson provides, I think is one of the big things that sold his family and him on Clemson and got him out of state, which is a huge get for the Clemson Tigers. And you're right, it puts a huge bow on top of that DB class for the 2024 cycle. And, it brings our recruiting class. I think it's currently, if you look at 247, I think it's currently 8th in the country right now. So we're sitting comfortably inside the top 10. So that's a really good thing. Where do you see the Clemson recruiting class going from here? We've talked in the past, the last couple shows about our woes on not landing the offensive line targets that we've been targeting in the 2024 cycle. It's no secret we've only landed one of the, what is it, 9 offensive line targets that we've had at this point. We've landed one of them.
I think it's. I don't know if it was 9. Maybe it was 6, 7.
It was 6. 6 came to the June official visit, but I know
Right.
we targeted kind of those
more.
a couple in-state guys early that we clearly were not going to win over South Carolina.
That's a good point. Yeah. So one for 9. Yeah. If you take
one for
Pringle,
9,
Frankston,
right?
Austin,
If you count our in-state offensive linemen, we're kind of 1 for 9. I know we need probably another edge guy or so. So where do you see Clemson's recruiting going, both on the offensive line, edge guy, or what's kind of the number that you see for this 2024 class? Because I'm sure they're not done quite yet, but they're getting close.
No. Yeah. This class is the core of this class is pretty much put together. But yeah, they still are looking to get a few more guys. If I had to shoot for a number, I think 21 or 22 seems to be like the target number for this class as far as the total number of guys. Clemson always try to take one big class every 3-4 years or so, depending on the number situation. And last year was the year where they kind of went all in and got a larger class. So this year is going to be smaller. Mm-hmm. I think we're sitting at 17 commits right now.
17 commits right now.
So, definitely looking to get a few more guys. Offensive line is obviously the big issue that Clemson fans have been upset about and kind of been frustrated with. But there are a couple of guys that Clemson is kind of laying the groundwork to try to push forward in the fall. Most notably, interior offensive lineman Elijah Thurman. Favorite offensive tackle Favor Edwin is also on the radar. Has not collected an offer yet, but I anticipate he could when the season starts. He hasn't played any sort of organized football, but he's gone to a lot of camps and he's shown out a lot. And so a lot of big time programs are intrigued. He's a guy I could definitely see if he has a strong year on the field. He ends up collecting that Clemson offer if he makes it to campus. So, I mean, the offensive line dominoes, I think it's just going to require patience. We're going to see how Clemson decides to proceed moving forward with that. But as far as other positions, we still have one more linebacker that they're trying to get in Wyatt Simmons out of Arkansas. It's kind of it's a guy I think Clemson has a good shot with, but you're battling the likes of Auburn and Arkansas, 2 SEC programs. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, he has a good relationship with the staff. And that's a recruitment that still is kind of yet to be determined. And then, I mean, really, other than that, trying to think, Edric Houston is still Clemson has not, quit their pursuit of Edric Houston at edge. Although that's kind of been a recruitment that seems to have been trending away from Clemson for a while. They have not completely given up on that yet, and they also have defensive end Solomon Williams out of Florida that they are still very much interested in. And trying to push for. So if they land a few of those guys, I think the class will feel really good, especially if you get 2 more offensive linemen. But I think the core of the class is pretty much put together. There's not a whole lot of big fish out there that Clemson is trying to get at this point. I think you've seen the large majority of what Clemson was trying to bring together with this class. And I think Clemson fans, regardless, are going to be happy with how this class shakes out. So it's just going to take patience with the offensive line stuff because you missed on so many targets. You got to push for those fallbacks, and they had not all of them have been to campus. Not all of them have received offers yet. So we will kind of get a better, clearer picture of that as we get into fall and the season. So I think that puts kind of a wrap on recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 2024 class kind of is shaped up to be what it is right now. We may land a couple more offensive linemen. I don't think there's any more kind of splash recruits out there that Clemson's going to add to this class. I think it's kind of not completely done, but for the most part, they're done, right? They're going to target a few more guys. They're going to carry some recruitments in the fall, probably, especially along the defensive edge and the offensive line. But at the end of the day, we had an amazing haul last recruiting cycle along the offensive line. So it's not ideal that we missed on so many guys. Clearly, we didn't want to miss on the guys that we went after this recruiting cycle, but unfortunately, that's how it shook out for us, right? So, we just kind of have to see where we go from here. Offer a couple more guys, see if we can get our number that Clemson was trying to get to this year, which was 3, and if not, maybe it's the transfer portal. Who knows what happens from there, right? But I guarantee we will have the number that we need by the time the recruiting cycle is done. By the time December rolls around, we'll have all of those answers that we're looking for.
100%. Yeah. Like I said, it's just going to take some patience as far as the offensive line is concerned, because you got to – I mean, Clemson has to go out and, first of all, they got to send out those offers and get these guys on campus. And that's something that's kind of being put together. There's not going to be any – I don't believe there are any uncommitted prospects that are going to be at the All-In Cookout. There typically aren't. They typically reserve the All-In Cookout for guys who are committed and guys who, if they don't have an offer, they're going to by the end of that day. And typically they've already been to campus at least once, if not in an official visit, sense to a camp or something. So the offensive line is just going to take patience. It's not going to be definitely not going to be the star-studded offensive line class that Clemson fans were hoping for. But at the end of the day, I'll say this: I think if there was any class where you didn't really hit on your big-time targets on the offensive line, I think it was good. It was this one. Because I'm just not. I don't think the quality top to bottom as far as the offensive line class in this cycle is particularly great. I think, especially with the guys that you have, that Clemson will be targeting next year. We might end up looking back on this and saying, "Oh, maybe we're glad we didn't hit on our big time guys in this one."
Right.
So at the end of the day, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is what it is at this point. It will be fine. We had a great recruiting class last cycle, as I already stated. So we're going to move on, and the cards will fall where they may with this cycle. It may be a disappointing along the offensive line, but like you said, you weren't high on the prospects coming out this year anyway along the offensive line. So maybe a blessing in disguise. You never like to miss on the guys that you're going after, but that's just how recruiting goes. Look, you just gotta press on to the 2023 season, onto the on the field play, and it's about time to strap up, Jordan. We're heading into fall camp very, very soon.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be. It is great because I'm tired of talking season at this point. I saw a graphic the other day, a hot take of Duke throttles Clemson in week 1 and wins 10 games, and I'm just people are starving for college football, and I think the deeper you get into the offseason, it's the worse the takes get, and the people are just looking for stuff to get clicks and kind of drum up some kind of conversation, because everybody's exhausted all the same things that they can talk about. With regards to and especially since recruiting is kind of winding down, official visit season, at least in the summer, has kind of come and gone. So there's not a whole lot to kind of create content with, so people just go crazy. So people need football. I put this on my Twitter account. I think Tyler, our special guest from last week, he added me and he showed me that graphic, and I said, people need football expeditiously. Like this is getting ridiculous.
It's becoming a problem. There's a disease out there in YouTube land, in regular big media, ESPN, Fox, whatever the case may be, in big media land and YouTube land, there's a disease out there, and the only cure is football games being played on Saturday that actually means something. That's the only thing that's going to cure it. Because you're right, man. There's people out here making some outlandish comments when it comes to. I mean, and it's not just Clemson. It's other teams as well. It's just college football in general. You're right. The longer that it seems like as the season gets closer, the more outlandish and crazy the either record predictions or the game predictions or the hot takes or whatever they are get. It is entertaining, but it's just not that. Most of it is not based in reality. Most of it is just based in a condition of not seeing a real live college football game in months. That's the disease. You haven't seen a real live college football game in months, and you're sick, man. You're sick. You need
ball, I'm gonna call it ball withdrawal.
Yeah, ball withdrawal. There you go.
That's what we're gonna call it.
There
ball
yeah,
withdrawal.
There we go. We got it. Ball withdrawal. I like it. Yeah. There's a bunch of people out there with ball withdrawal, and they're just spewing off at the mouth, and they're just talking crazy because they got nothing better to do, and we're like 3.5, 4 weeks away from kickoff. Right, week 0 is when? The end of August. So we're maybe like, what are we, 4 weeks away? Something like that.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, give or take. Somewhere close to that. Most of the week 0 games, by the way, are not great games.
No. But we're going to watch it anyway.
Guess what? Guess what? I'm going to watch it, right?
Yeah, damn right. Just like we watched Northwestern and Nebraska up in Ireland last year.
You know what I'm saying? What business does college football?
Terrible, but, at the end of the day, it was like, at that moment, we didn't care. And, especially seeing Northwestern win, we're like, are both these teams good or are they bad? Or
are they both terrible? Bad. Yeah, they were both terrible teams.
But, hey, it didn't take away from that game in the moment. It was kind of just happy to have college football back. That's one of the best feelings in the world because, with all the talk about, the college football playoff and everything's about the playoff and all that, it's nice that there's at least a one time in the year where people don't care about any of that stuff. Is week 0, week
1. Yeah,
everybody has a clean slate. You're not really thinking about the playoff picture. You're just happy football's back and you're going to watch.
Yeah, that's right. Like first couple weeks of the season, right? Nobody talks about the playoffs, right?
Right.
Because they're just happy their team's on the field playing games again, and then they're just happy to be watching any football at all. So you got a good point there, but I mean, I am so ready for college football season to start.
Me too.
This talking season has been too long. I have enjoyed our show throughout the offseason. It's been
Absolutely.
great.
It's made it. It's helped it like tremendously go
for
by.
Sure. Like I feel like this is our first year doing kind of the offseason show, right? And this has been the fastest offseason by far.
100%.
Just because we get on here, we talk Clemson football, we chop it up with a bunch of college football junkies like ourselves. So it makes the time go by much quicker. But this last month is going to be probably the slowest month ever till we get to regular, real, big-time college football. But it's coming. It's coming, and I'm excited. And I know everybody in the comment section is. I know you are. Because otherwise, why would you be watching this stream on a Thursday afternoon at 7:30 or whatever it is at night right now?
Yeah, a lot better things to do. Like I skipped. I haven't even eaten dinner yet because I'm excited to talk about this. Just get on this show.
I got home.
The time I do the show, I haven't eaten yet. So
that's what I'm saying. Like me and you, every time we get off the show, we're like, we got to go eat, man. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
I got home like 10, 15 minutes before the show and logged on. So
that's right.
That's how dedicated me and Jordan are to you guys. Okay. Yeah. We're going to bring you the show regardless. Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
No, absolutely not. It's a privilege.
I did see one question in the comment section I wanted to hit to kind of put a wrap on on recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
John asked, does Dudley being dismissed mean that they might look for one more linebacker just to have the numbers? I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't think it's I don't expect that to happen. And there were some nuggets in media days that we'll get to about certain players taking some reps at linebacker. So we could see that could possibly be a kind of solution or workaround that they're looking at. And I mean, even if you end up landing Wyatt Simmons, that's 3 linebackers in this class. I think that's a good number, regardless.
Yep.
I mean, presumably, if you lose, your top 2 guys, it's nice to bring in 3. So you're still kind of working at a plus right now.
And you got a Kobe McLeod. We'll see how he is. Year 2 coming off his redshirt season. Look, the talent past Carter and Jeremiah Thompson and Wade Woodaz, the experience definitely drops off to basically nothing after that. After
Right.
those 3, but it doesn't mean that the guys can't play, right? Kobe McLeod redshirted last year, so maybe he takes a step forward during fall camp and he's ready to fill that role. Maybe one of the other guys are, right? I believe in the talent that Clemson has recruited. We've always had some pretty good linebackers. Maybe not guys that necessarily transfer to the NFL every single time, but guys that could absolutely perform on the field.
Absolutely. John gets in. He says, "Oh, now I see. You guys are always hangry." Yeah. I mean, I don't always show it. I usually keep a pretty mellow, monotone, and calm demeanor, so to speak. But sometimes I'm like, "Damn, I need a burger right now." But y'all can't see it. But,
yeah, you got to give us some credit. We did a whole show with the Gamecock channel, so that's got to count for something, right?
Yeah,
we stayed pretty reserved.
Shows how dedicated we are. All right, let's not keep them waiting anymore. Let's kind of transition and talk about ACC Media Days today. Clemson was up today. We got to see Dabo, of course, and then obviously the 3 player representatives were Kate Klubnik, Tyler Davis, and Will Putnam. So it's kind of nice to hear from those guys. Craven, what were kind of what was something that kind of jumped out to you as far as that was concerned?
So one of the things that really jumped out to me is something. It wasn't really ACC Media Days that did it for me. It kind of started back in the Clemson Media Days, if you will, if that's what we'll call it, right? Clemson Media Day was last week, where all the coaches were available. They brought some of the freshmen in and made them available as well, right? Just to kind of introduce them to the fan base, introduce them to the media type deal. The biggest takeaway I could say so far from leading into this season is Dabo seems relaxed. He seems confident, like kind of a quiet confidence, and kind of just he understands the team that he currently has, and he believes in that team. And then another big takeaway that I had was Cade, right? I mean, this guy has put on a ton of muscle mass since he's been at Clemson.
Yeah.
He's weighing in at like 204, 205 now. You can see the difference in him just standing there, even in, a suit talking to the media. He looks thicker. He looks bigger. He looks like he's been putting in plenty of work in the offseason. And then he really gushed about the wide receiver room. I know the biggest question, anytime somebody has talked about Clemson this offseason, the one thing they have mentioned without doubt is what? The wide receiver room. Every single time. Oh, yeah, they got Garrett Riley, but what about their wide receivers, right? They got plumbers and part-time contractors at wide receiver, right? Like that's kind of how they're selling it, right? So Cade seemed super excited about the wide receiver room. And he talked about how much they have thrown this offseason in the summer, how much those dudes have been hitting them up every single day. Hey, let's go throw. Let's go throw. Let's go throw. Let's go get work in, right? So that chemistry and that foundation is being built without the coaches there. And when you have a team, what that tells me is you have a team that's very bought in. They believe that they are trending in the right direction, and they believe the direction of the leadership that is on the team, right? They believe the direction of where the team is going, and they're 100% bought in. So I'm excited to see this wide receiver core. I'm excited to see Cade with all the work that he's done this offseason. I'm excited to see Garrett Riley and the new system. I'm not saying it's going to hit the ground and take off to 100 miles an hour initially, as I've said in the past. But Dabo's confidence and then Cade talking about the wide receiver core are the two biggest things that hit me from ACC media days. And Dabo even mentioned that the Florida State Clemson matchup is probably going to determine a playoff berth. That's not something you hear Dabo talk about, especially this early in the season, right? He doesn't like to talk about things like that, but he went there in ACC media days, where Florida State kind of shied away from that. They were kind of no bulletin board material. No, Clemson's fine. We don't want to talk about that. Blah, blah, blah. Clemson's the standard, so on and so forth, right? Dabo Swinney went out there and was like, this matchup is probably going to come down to who goes to the playoff and who doesn't. It's also going to come down to who wins the ACC and who doesn't. So those were kind of my big takeaways. What do you think?
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of what you said, like, because there, the kind of renewed sense of energy that you mentioned, and the confidence that from Dabo and from Cade and the other players, it kind of feeds into this whole idea that I've kind of thought this whole team feels kind of transformed.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the way to put it. I think they've evolved, and they look like they look and sound like they're in a much better place than they were a year ago. Not just mentally, but physically as well. I mean, and I think the gains that Cade has made, the pictures of XT that we've seen, the guy he's about as physically impressive as I've seen him since he's been at Clemson. Adam Randall looking like I don't even know. I just
you looking like mini DK Metcalf out there, bro.
He looks
huge.
Crazy.
He's huge.
Peter Woods, and we'll talk about Peter Woods because Dabo spent like 5 minutes gushing about Peter Woods later in the day. Just the team as a whole just seems like they're in a much better place, and they seem transformed. And I think not just with the infusion of Garrett Riley in the offense, although that's obviously a huge part, but I think it's kind of spread to the entire team. I think it seems like Clemson has kind of possibly done a little bit different with their strength and conditioning, because it just seems like the players look a lot more fit. They seem they just look different than they did last year. And
before you keep going, I don't mean to interrupt you, but has there been a change in their nutritionist or
not that I know of? It seems like it doesn't seem like there's been a change in staff. It seems like just kind of a change in process, possibly.
These dudes are out here looking different, man.
Yeah.
Bro, you like XT. I mean, so somebody just said, Pat Bateman just said in the comment, XT looks like he's been in the NFL for 4 years. Yeah, no lie, bro. This dude is out here looking crazy. And I know a lot of these guys obviously have to stay healthy, but this strength and conditioning and the nutrition probably goes hand in hand with that. Seems like it's on a different level for Clemson right now. And I don't know if they made you say they didn't make any changes as far as the nutritionist.
I don't know. Well, Jermaine just got in and said that a new nutritionist was added in January. So
well, maybe that's it right there, man, because these guys are looking different. And I know we got the same strength and conditioning coach. That hasn't changed. So I was just curious if we had a new nutritionist on board, or maybe they, kind of change their approach to something. I don't know, but to your point, you can keep going, but they look different.
And Go Tigers makes a good point. I mean, it's not just the changes from the oversight. It's the players themselves. They just seem to be that they've taken a lot of personal responsibility, and that's something I saw John mention earlier as well. This team it seems to be taking their success in their own hands, and they know that last year, while was not a bad year, and they accomplished a lot of things, won an ACC championship. They knew that was not why they came here, and they knew that this team needed to undergo some changes, some not physical and mental changes to get to the point where they could possibly be competing for a playoff spot in a national championship. And it seems like they've gone all in, and no pun intended.
Y'all see the show name? Y'all see that?
Yeah. But they've really bought in, and I think part of it is there's a few guys on this roster that know, hey, this is my last shot. Guys like Xavier Thomas, some of the older guys have kind of stepped into those leadership roles, and I think this infusion of talent from this 2023 class, I think there's a lot of really not just really talented players, but really hardworking players that just are made of that championship DNA that people always run into the ground. That phrase that people run into the ground. But I truly think that this 2023 class has a lot of guys that are going to be really special players and really big time contributors down the road. And I think that's kind of reinvigorated the program as a whole as well. So I think just from a lot of different angles, from sports and from strength and conditioning and nutrition to Garrett Riley coming in to the renewed sense of optimism, the acceptance of personal responsibility and all that. I think all of that has kind of come together, and it seems like that the attitude in the building is at a really, really high level. And I think that's exciting to see this close to the season. Because
for sure. I mean, you heard Dabo talk about it in the Clemson media days, right? They had, what was it, 133 out of 135 players on the roster, the positive and accountability points. Clemson does the accountability points for their discipline and all the stuff that they do, right? So that shows a commitment and a buy-in from every player except two, right? And then I think a big thing that you hit on that made me think of these young guys, right? Like, and not just these young guys, but the high-profile young guys, like Peter Woods. You hear Dabo gush for like 5 minutes about a guy like Peter Woods. That dude seems like it almost seems like he operates like he's a walk-on. Like he's so hungry. He's just there putting in the work, soaking up the coaching, doing the work in the weight room, doing the work in conditioning, doing every single drill 100% every single time. And when you have a guy like that that's as highly recruited as a Peter Woods, that's as highly rated as a Peter Woods, everybody else just kind of follows, right? You need those type of leaders in your room, and they don't always have to be upperclassmen, right? And that's kind of the thing, man. When you get these high-profile guys come in and they're hungry and they got that, championship pedigree and all that type of stuff, and really what it is to me is just hunger to work, to get better, never resting on your laurels, right? Never being satisfied with what you did yesterday, attacking each day in order to make yourself better. So that dude seems super ready. There's no way Clemson's keeping him off the field for any length of time this year. This dude is going to be on the field early and often. I'm excited to see it. The other guy I'm excited to see, everybody on this channel knows, if you were watching our preview videos and our post-game videos last year, huge XT fan. The only thing that I say about XT, fingers crossed that he doesn't get injured again, because I think if XT doesn't get injured, this man is going to be a freaking animal this year. Like, he is going to let loose. And if his physique is any indication of how he's going to play, hey,
look out, man.
Hey, you better watch out.
He put out, he was like, he's at 10% body fat now. That is incredible.
What? Yeah, look here. No, absolutely not. Nope.
Yeah. It's pretty incredible. and it makes me excited to see this this
Yeah.
defensive line. I mean, despite the losses that they suffered last year, I think there's just a lot of guys in the room that we have a lot to be excited about. And I think when I was listening to Dabo talk about Peter Woods, I know we just kind of talked about him, but he said that Peter Woods was one of the most unique players he's ever come across in his 20 plus years of coaching. I think that's just a testament to what he is. I mean, he made the comparison to some of the Clemson players of old, like Christian Wilkins.
That's who comes to mind for me for Peter Woods.
Austin Bryant. But even he said he's farther along than Christian Wilkins. And I think Dexter Lawrence and Cleveland Farrell, when he was talking about those guys, he was like, all of those guys came in and they were really, they were all really impressive, and we were high on all of them, but they all had these little things that they had to get better at and work on. Like Christian Wilkins, he came in, he was really ready, but he played at a small private school in the Northeast.
Absolutely.
Cleveland Farrell and Austin Bryant came in undersized. They had to put on muscle. Dexter Lawrence, he came in extremely big, and he kind of had to slim down a bit. And Dabo kind of talked about that. But with Peter Woods, he said there's not really anything he has to. There's not really anything that kind of jumps off the page at you. It's like physically he's there, mentally he's there. He's kind of the complete package. And it's there's no such thing as a flawless player. But when Dabo was talking about him, it was like, I don't really see much wrong with him. The only thing he doesn't have is experience on the field at the college level. But I have no doubt that he's ready, and he's probably the most ready player I've ever coached. And like that just kind of I don't know how that doesn't excite you if you're not a Clemson. If you're a Clemson fan, because that's the kind of guy that I think could be a game breaker.
That's what I'm saying.
You put him on the field, and he completely he destroys a play on his own.
Yeah,
because he beats the left tackle, or he gets interior pressure. Wherever you decide to line him up.
You know what he reminds me of? Like, listen to me out here for a second. You think back to XT's freshman year, right? And I'm not comparing him to XT, right? Or his freshman year, right? But you look at XT's freshman year and how he just kind of came in and was like that guy that just like wreaked havoc because the guys in front of him were very stable, very good players, right? And he would just come in and just wreck, right? He kind of reminds me of that heading into this year. Now, they may lean on him a lot more than they leaned on XT in his freshman year, but it kind of reminds me of that because you got a guy like Tyler Davis and Ruka Rororo and XT if he stays healthy, and maybe a Justin Maskell who, the coaches kind of talked about how much work he's put in the offseason and how excited they are to see, maybe he takes that next step, right? So you got those guys, and then you got a guy like Peter Woods who we're talking about that just seems like an animal, man. It seems like he's never satisfied, right? Regardless of how good he performs, regardless of how well people talk about him, he's always looking for, can I get better? Next best thing. So he kind of reminds me just a little bit of like how XT came into his freshman season with kind of zero pressure. Now that's not really Peter Woods because he's being talked about way more.
Yeah.
But XT came in and was just kind of like that dude that was like, who's that? Like, y'all just rolled out y'all's like, I thought your starters left. They were off the field. Who's this dude that's completely destroying the Syracuse quarterback and sending them into 3 years prior?
Especially with what Garrett Schrader has said earlier, that would be a really fitting thing to happen. I'm
kind of right. Yeah. We'll hope for it. It is what it is.
But yeah, and it's just it's exciting. I don't want to gush too much about Peter Woods, but just from I've I cannot remember a player that has gotten this kind of praise.
No.
Really since I've been watching Clemson football. So I just it's when you hear that you listen, because I mean a lot of times every year you have your coach speak and coaches will be like, oh, this guy looks really good. He's put the work in this offseason, all of that. But it's never really, sometimes they deliver on it, sometimes they don't, and it's just kind of it is what it is. And coach is going to talk up his players, but this is different.
Right.
Just you don't go this all in and spend this amount of time gushing and praising a guy if he's not the real deal. And I mean, his high school tape is as impressive as I've ever seen. Playing at the level of football he did in the state of Alabama, one of the most talented per capita football states. He's just, he's a different kind of player.
For sure. Yeah, he's definitely a different guy. A different guy for sure.
All right. And I guess one more takeaway that I kind of wanted to touch on was we didn't really spend too much time on it, but obviously I think listening to Cade and some of the things he talked about as far as his own personal, beyond just the weight gain and all that, what he's learned from Garrett Riley, the kind of strides he's made as far as being a quarterback, I thought was really nice to listen to. My guy, Drew Watts over at Clemson Sports Media. Drew, if you're listening, what's up, my man? He asked a really good question about kind of how Cade had developed as far as his pocket presence and what he's done with that. And Cade gave a good answer, and he was talking in detail kind of about what kind of things he's been doing and what Garrett Riley has brought as far as a knowledge standpoint. There were he said, I've never soaked up this kind of knowledge in my, but that's basically what he said. He said he had not learned this much about being a quarterback at any point in his career. And I mean, I think that's telling when he was talking about, identifying protections and identifying blitzes or setting protections, identifying blitzes, stuff like that. He said, well, I didn't really, I only knew how to do that at a surface level, but I didn't really had the knowledge that I thought I had. And so I thought that was really cool thing to hear. And it makes you excited because as much criticism as Clemson has got as far as, their quarterback coaching over the years, it's nice to kind of hear that the guy you have in now is, not only did he play quarterback, he's coached up really good quarterbacks. And I think that's something Clemson has kind of missed the past couple of years.
Yep, we missed on our last 5-star, right? We obviously know that. And then I also heard Kay talk about did he talk about working with Jordan Palmer in California?
He did
this past offseason. So I mean, he's been out there grinding as well, right? Working on his game, working with a guy that guys preparing for the NFL draft go and do. So clearly he's going to put in the work. He's willing to put in the work. We see it from the growth in his body weight, from the development in his body, from where he was at to now 204, 205, working with guys like Jordan Palmer. He spoke about the great relationship that he has with Garrett Riley and how they just kind of mesh, and they're just Texas dudes talking about brisket first, and then they talked about football second, right? So it's always that relationship between quarterback and coordinator that's always super important. And it seems that they have that. And then, like I said before, him talking about the wide receiver room and how not only him initiating throwing sessions and building that chemistry with the wide receivers, but them initiating that with him, which that's the thing that stood out to me most about what he said, outside of working with Jordan Palmer and the relationship that he has with Garrett Riley, because they're both Texas people, right? The receivers reaching out to him, and saying, "Hey, let's get together, let's throw, let's build this chemistry." It's just it. There's a renewed energy around the Clemson program. It cannot be denied. I'm not saying they're going to win the national title this year by any means. Don't get me wrong. They have a lot of work to do. They got to prove it on the field first. But this team, to me, from everything that I've seen from Clemson media days to ACC media days and everything in between, they seem hungry and they seem confident about what they're doing. And I think that's super important.
Absolutely. And you can just feel it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not one of those things where it's like we say we're confident, but it's like I don't really
Right.
get that vibe. You feel the confidence, and you kind of heard it from the other player representatives as well. I mean, Will Putnam talking about how Walker Parks looks like he looks like a different human being, and he's finally healthy. And he talked about how the offensive line in general has, they're in the best shape they've been. Tyler Davis talked about having the opportunity to come back and play for Nick Eason,
I
and
mean,
how him and Rook talked about it, and how they had felt like they had the best, that they felt in the best shape last year, and they wanted to get another year of that. And I think just there's a lot of not only is this team excited, their purpose, they're very purpose driven. They know what they came here to do, and that's really exciting, because I think this team needs to kind of get back to that, and kind of have that purpose again. It just, this program felt kind of directionless for 2 years because of the struggles, and it bled over to to the whole team, and just kind of the attitude. But this definitely feels different.
oh yeah, it certainly feels different. And speaking for the defensive tackles, who wouldn't want to play for Nick Eason, dude? Who wouldn't be in the
Right.
greatest shape of their life playing for Nick Eason? This dude's out here, long retired from the NFL. He's a coach. He don't have to do any of this, and he's out there strapping up some cleats and doing mat drills
Yeah.
in the summer with the players, right? So absolutely crazy. I mean, who would not want to play for that guy? I can clearly see why Tyler Davis and Ruka Roro and everybody else wants to play for this dude. I I have no question in my mind of why Clemson's defensive tackle group is so deep. It's because we have Nick Eason. Like that's the reason. Like why would you not want to play for that guy? He's electric in interviews. He speaks from the heart. He's as real as a person as I've seen, and he's willing to get his hands dirty and get down in there and sweat with his players as well. And I know me, that would not motivate like that. That would be the peak of the motivation, right? My coach
Absolutely.
out there doing what he's asking me to do. I'm like, yeah, I definitely got to get out there and give everything I got. So, uh,
Yeah. If he can do it, I can do it.
exactly,
I got
right?
no
Like,
excuse.
like, dang, bro, he's already played in the NFL, retired. He's got bad knees. He's probably got a bad hip, so on and so forth. He's out here outdoing me, man. I got to put some work in, right? So, um, you love to see stuff like that.
100%. All right. Do you want to kind of take some questions, and
Yeah,
or unless you had anything else?
I don't have anything else, man. We talked about ACC media days. We wrapped up recruiting.
Oh, did you
Now,
see? Oh, wait, did you see? Dabo did a magic trick. On I think
what?
they posted it on ACC Network. He did I think he was talking to, I don't remember who he was doing it with. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Um, but he did this. He did this whole elaborate like card trick. I don't know. I thought that was goofy, but it was really fun. Um, just kind of
That's
seeing.
yeah.
I didn't know he could do that.
That's on brand for Dabo.
Yeah.
I would like that. I don't question that at all. That's on brand for Dabo. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I did not get to see that. I haven't seen all the interviews from ACC Media Day, so maybe I'll have some other stuff to talk about next week. But we kind of hit the highlights, and Dabo doing a magic trick with the media does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
That's
No, it does. It
that's
doesn't.
on brand. Super funny.
All right. All right, y'all. Get kind of your questions in.
Yeah.
We'll kind of wind down. This will be a little bit of a shorter show.
Yeah, get your questions, get your comments in. I know we got 21 people in here right now, so I'm sure you guys got some questions about either recruiting or ACC media days or our thoughts heading into fall camp. Bring them in. We'll chop through them all, and then we'll get out of here. We thank you for being here.
John Gisson, he says, did you see Dabo slam Eric McElwain when he asked about West's tough first year? I don't think I saw that question. I might have tuned out on that one.
I did not see that.
Yeah, that would be a question. I might have to go back and listen to that. But you can kind of give me a Cliff Notes version of what he said, because Dabo slamming Eric.
I don't put it past him.
Yeah. Wow. He must have took some kind of.
He probably took some offense to what the wording of the question. I would assume. I don't know. Let us know what he said, John. Let us know what he said.
Who is the South Carolina writer, Jack Legg, who was given the first question? I asked Dabo about having to play in Willie B. I didn't hear that name, but I did think that was kind of I was like, oh.
It was funny. Like, we don't switch stadiums every year after we play each other. Like, what are we talking about? I'm like, what?
All right.
What a moron. Whatever. Yeah, we get it. You broke the streak. Got it. Nobody's scared of playing in Willie B with your stupid Sandman, okay, Carolina? Okay? Nobody cares.
Yeah. It was Dabo dragged Eric about his first year at ACC Network and said he's glad they gave him another chance.
God, did he really say that? That's crazy, dude. That's messed
up. Okay. That's the kind of Dabo response. I thought I thought, like, for a second he like responded with some kind of like sass or indignation or something. But the sass was definitely there, but not the indignation.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's funny. That's
pretty fun. Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, that's good. That's good right there. I like that.
But love Eric. He's good people though. That's funny. Giving him a hard time. I thought for a second it would have been funny if he had given him a hard time about his first year at Clemson too.
That would have been good.
We're glad we didn't cut you. That was funny. So Will gets in. He asks, would you guys want the ACC to merge with the Pac-12? I mean, I don't think there would be much value in that. Really, for both conferences, I just logistics wise, I think it's a non-starter, but I don't know if that would really solve any of the problems that either conference is facing. I mean, you just saw Colorado say sayonara and head to the Big 12, and Oregon has been in talks and has just been swirling in the rumor mill about Big Ten membership and a couple other programs. So I mean, I don't know. I really don't expect. Well, that's not the question. You were asking, do we expect it? Do we want to? Do I want it to happen? Not particularly. I don't.
No.
I don't see the value in it.
I don't. Yeah. I don't think that would improve the ACC at all, or the Pac-12 for that matter. Yeah, I don't know where the ACC goes from here. We'll see how they navigate it.
John Sarian says, you surprised at the hype for Khalil Barnes? Maybe he doesn't redshirt. I'm not surprised at all. When Clemson initially took him, I thought that was one of the best gets of the class. Not necessarily, but like he was one of the best players or like talent-wise in the class, but I thought just from a value standpoint, I thought should have been a 4-star really, at least. And that was a really late get. He was a Wake Forest commit, but really started picking up the offers in his senior year. And I said, I want this kid in the class. And just because he's one of the most ready to play players, I think, in the class right now, just from his understanding of defense, playing in the secondary, and he provides so much positional versatility. I was like, this is a guy that I think has a really good chance of playing early, and especially with the loss of T.J. Dudley, they've given him reps. He's taking reps at linebacker. You're going to see him you're definitely going to see him at nickel. He's one of the contenders to play nickel. He's a guy that I think offers a lot of versatility to the Clemson defense, personnel wise, in that secondary. And so I think you're going to see him play a good bit. I definitely don't expect him to redshirt. I think he's a guy that Clemson could use this year. Another question. You hearing the rumors about Florida State maybe as early as this year giving the ACC notice? I guess it has to be done by August 15th or wait another year. I'm doubtful, but a lot of chat. Yeah, I saw Chris Nee over at Knowles 247. He kind of put something out earlier that Florida State seemed, at least the possibility of Florida State leaving was as real as it's ever been, and that they are actively pursuing channels to kind of get out. Now, will they meet that August 15th deadline?
Probably not.
I'm kind of skeptical, but it doesn't surprise me. They definitely haven't been shy about it, and they've kind of been upfront and said, "Hey, we're exploring all our options, and leaving is on the table." So it's definitely something that Clemson has an eye on, and no doubt both schools are in communication with each other about it. That's kind of been the kind of relationship that they've had in this entire ordeal. They've kind of been communicating back and forth because these are right now the two premier brands in the conference as far as football is concerned. So
you would think if one leaves, both leaves.
Yeah, I definitely could. Yeah, I think they're Florida State. Leaving would definitely give Clemson a lot of incentive, and that may be something they coordinate. Who knows? Clemson has kind of been they've kind of been the calmer, kind of under the radar program as far as doing all of that back channeling and stuff. They haven't been as upfront and in your face about, hey, we're trying to leave.
Right.
But I think it's something that is worth paying attention to for sure, especially with the news of Colorado saying we're gone. The realignment is not over.
No,
despite what some people may have thought.
I don't think realignment's going to be truly over until we have a new governing body of college football.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And
it
tends to be heading that way.
Yeah,
there's
a new governing body of college football coming. Excuse me. What that looks like, I don't think we quite know yet. But obviously, the NCAA is obsolete. They don't have any power anymore. I'd be surprised if Jim Harbaugh isn't on the sideline for the first 4 games. Like, what's the NCAA going to do if Jim Harbaugh decides to coach the first 4 games of this season? What are they going to do? I don't think they have any power. Like, if I was Jim Harbaugh, I'm going to be honest. If I was Jim Harbaugh, I'd coach the first 4 games. Be like, what are you going to do?
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't, because it's like, Michigan's schedule is kind of.
I realize that, but I just do it based off principle. Like, what are you going to do to me? You have no power. Like, no one respects the NCAA. No one respects the NCAA. That's why I didn't answer your questions to begin with, because I don't think you have any power, and I don't think you have the business to ask the questions, right?
Yeah,
so I think there's a new governing body coming to Clemson, or not to Clemson, to college football. What that looks like, maybe it's a commissioner. I don't know what it looks like. Maybe there's a group of teams that push into their own kind of thing, like Dabo Swinney was talking about a while back. I don't know what it looks like, but it's going to look different than it does now. Maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll be worse. Who knows? This is such a weird time for college football with the playoff expansion and NIL deals, and it's just like football. College football's kind of turned into the wild wild west. There's kind of rules, but there is no rules. But there's like kind of rules. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see where it goes.
John gets in. He says Colorado didn't have the same financial bogey though. Yeah, that's
true.
I'm definitely
That's true. Yeah,
which makes me skeptical about how Florida State plans to get out. But again, I definitely don't have any insider sources on all of that, and that's something they've been
what makes
and exploring for a while. So
that's what makes me think if Florida State's out that quickly, Clemson's soon to follow.
Right.
Because
if they find a way,
if they found a way to get out that quickly, so did Clemson. Like Clemson's been the more mild, quiet program or university about it, but they're looking at it just as diligently as FSU is. So, and I'm sure the two universities are sharing resources when it comes to dealing with that contract and getting out of it and finding loopholes and stuff like that.
Right. What's up, Tigers? Jay, I believe that's Justin, one of my friends over on Twitter. What's up, man? Glad to see you pop in. Good to see you.
Thanks for stopping by, man. Keep coming.
Jermaine says Khalil is ready. Yeah, and that seems to be the sentiment in the building that he's
Khalil Barnes,
he's a guy that's ready to play, and he's going to get some burn this year. Excited to see him. The spring game. If the spring game was any indication, I think.
Bro,
that
dude blew it. He was like Dominique Thomas in the spring game, right? Those were probably like the MVPs of the spring game.
Oh yeah,
on offensive defense, right? So, look, let's do it. Let's do it. He can absolutely play.
John says, I think there's a whole new NFL light thing coming, leaving NCAA to govern the remaining college football, which will be maybe 25% of existing P5 and all the G5 on down. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's kind of the direction we're heading. I think the bigger, the larger portion of the Power 5 is going to split off, and create their own governing body. And how that works with, as far as the NFL and eligibility, they'll create their own rules, and it'll be kind of like it could be like a minor league, like a AAA type thing in baseball.
Isn't that unfortunate though? I mean,
I don't love that.
I don't like it at all. Yeah. I don't like it even like a little bit. But I understand. Like, I do agree that it's probably heading towards, we're already heading towards the NFL Junior. We went from 4 teams, now we're 12 teams, so on and so forth. I don't know. It is what it is. It doesn't matter if we liked college football the way that it was. It's not going to stay the same, so there's no use worrying about whether it's the same or not. Either you come accustomed to what college football is now, or you stop watching it. And I'm clearly not going to stop watching it. So.
Right. And it's just kind of been, just kind of forcing our hand with all the legislation and all the Supreme Court rulings, all of that, the court cases that have been going on for the past few years on all of this. The NCAA is losing its grip by the day.
And, that's why I say they have no teeth anymore. I mean, right. That's like I'm half joking when I talk about Jim Harbaugh and stuff like that. But like, honestly, like what would they do if Jim Harbaugh came out week 1? Like, what are you going to do?
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know who's still listening to the NCAA or who's still respecting them as authority in the college football game.
I mean, look, you saw what happened with, and even like the programs that the Tennessee just basically got off essentially scot-free. They lost like a few scholarships, but
they got off scot-free.
But they pretty much in a fine, which for the stuff they did, they had like over 200 violations, something crazy. It was some crazy number under Jeremy Pruitt. And they basically got a slap on the wrist and pretty much nothing else. And that's
Right.
kind of, I mean, hell, I mean, when Clemson got put on probation back in the 80s, like I think they had committed maybe like, I think it was like 100, and they got, they got TV, they got, well, because they got punishment from the NCAA and they got punishment from the ACC. So
Right.
they had to forfeit scholarships. They gave up their TV rights, or they didn't go to bowl games. Like but nowadays it's like you basically can get away with murder. Well,
do whatever
everything's sort of murder.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want now.
Yeah. Yeah, good point, Justin. Yeah, Jeremy Pruitt is a PE teacher now, so that's pretty crazy. That just came out that he got hired. It was at the school. He got his coaching start, I believe, at that school or something like that. But now he's a PE teacher. That's pretty crazy. You go from being a head coach at a major Power 5 program to PE.
Think about that, man. You're the defensive coordinator for Nick Saban for years.
Yeah.
Then you go to be a head coach of a major college football program like Tennessee. And now you're a PE teacher.
Shout out to my PE teachers. There's no disrespect to PE teachers or anything like that, but
wow.
But that's definitely a pretty stark difference as far as just.
I'm pretty sure PE teachers aren't making like $5, $6, $7 million a year. I don't know. Maybe somebody's got a special school where they're paying that kind of money, but that's quite the tumble down the ladder right there.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I when I saw that, I had to check and make sure it was real, because I was like, someone sent it to me. I was like, hey, no, that's got to be from a satire account or something.
Ain't no way.
Then I was like, oh my God, this is real. Jeremy Pruitt,
PE teacher.
Shout out to him though.
He's probably a really good PE teacher though.
Yeah, I have no doubt. John, he says Banks Pope was MVP. Yeah, that's another good candidate. He was cooking. He was cooking for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Big Mick. If all the top programs jump to the SEC, I have a playoff. The SEC will just have a play. Well, I mean, if college football is going to consolidate the way it is, I mean, that's not going to be far from the truth.
That's kind of the point. It just won't be called the SEC anymore.
Yeah,
it'll be called something. I don't know what it'll be called. It'll be called something different. But it'll basically be all the teams that we basically talk about all the time, lumped into one group, with probably some sort of commissioner or some sort of governing body. And then they kind of have their own thing separate from the NCAA, separate from any other university or something like that. That's kind of how I see it going. That's not how I want it to go, but I think it's too late to go back at this point. I don't think there's any going back.
He not only broke all those rules, but his team still sucked. Yeah, that's pitiful. Yeah, it's one thing to cheat, but it's one thing to cheat and still lose. That's
if you cheat and win a national title, at least you won the national title, right?
Yeah.
If you cheat and still suck, then
like
you're not good at cheating or football. So,
like LSU under Les Miles, all the stuff they did, they cheated, but they were winning.
They were winning, right?
Yeah.
They just couldn't beat Alabama.
Yeah.
But outside of that, they were winning.
Yeah. That's pretty pitiful. And they were terrible. It wasn't even like they were just kind of mid, like going to like they were like, oh, we're winning, 8-9 games, but we're not horrible, but we're pretty good. Yeah. We're a solid team. No, they were flat out bad. What did they went like 3-7 Pruitt's last year, like.
Oh yeah, they were terrible. They were absolutely terrible.
Yeah, John, we're talking about Diadamo. Yeah, we're talking about the McDonald's bag. Yeah, well, actually, apparently, it was Chick-fil-A bags, not McDonald's bags. So
Chick-fil-A bags.
It's a little more. It's a little more upscale, getting a little bit more fancy. I can respect the game, I guess, a little bit, but the stuff that Jeremy Pruitt and his wife were doing was flat out like. egregious. Like they literally were just handing them. Like I think Jeremy Pruitt's wife went and got like brought cash for one of a recruit's parents, like car payment or something like that. Just straight up gave it to him. I'm like, okay, that's pretty incredible that you thought you were gonna do that and get away. Like the stuff that Tennessee was doing was as close to like the comically upfront, ways of like the 80s, like what SMU was doing back in the 80s, where they were just
when
up,
they got the death penalty.
They were just they were literally showing up to recruits' houses with like briefcases of money.
Just like advertising in the local newspaper, like want money for college football.
Come play for SMU.
Come play for Tennessee.
Yeah,
we got you.
There wasn't much attempt to hide it. That's pretty.
The sign name was not Jeremy Pruitt.
Yeah. Paramy Jewett.
Like Paramy Jewett. Yeah.
Oh my God. But no, I can't laugh too much at Tennessee because
whatever.
They don't like that very much.
Yeah, they get a little bit hurt. They're kind of soft.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A
is really good.
It is. It is good.
It's honestly, I mean, as far as it's the gold standard for me in the fast food industry. They
definitely have the drive-through situation figured out.
Yeah.
Like
no one does it better.
You know what I'm saying? Like no one does a drive-through better than Chick-fil-A.
I can get through a 10-car line at Chick-fil-A faster than I could get through a 4 or 5 car line at McDonald's.
I'm trying to tell you, dude. Like you can be the next car at the speaker at McDonald's, and you could be 12 cars deep at Chick-fil-A. You're getting your Chick-fil-A order before you're getting that McDonald's order. Hands down. I don't care what you say.
Every time.
It happens. I don't know how it happens. Maybe they have the ability to pause time. I don't know. But they make it happen. And I'm not really sure how they do it, but they do it. So.
And as many years as they've been doing it, there's no other brand that's done it better since. I don't know how we got to talking about fast food.
No idea. See,
we're just hungry. That's what it is. We're proving John Sarian's point, talking about
full circle. We went full circle on this whole conversation that we started an hour ago. We went full circle. And
I cannot believe we got dragged into talking about food, and now that's frustrating. Can't believe we did that. That's funny though.
Oh man. How do we let that happen, Jordan?
Don't deny God's chicken, right?
We got to be better. We got to be better next episode.
We got to be better. I got to start putting something on my stomach before we do these shows.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We gotta have like a snack, a beef jerky or something. We gotta be better. This is not good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. What a show, man! What a show. We should probably end it there because
I think that's a great place to.
That's probably where that's probably where we should stop. We should definitely stop at that point. Yeah. So.
All right, guys. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Great week of Clemson. In the Clemson media sphere. With media days, getting a commitment over the weekend. And we are so close to college football. It's
so close.
We're going through it just like y'all. So keep tuning in every Thursday, 7 p.m. We hopefully are going to help each other get this last part of the offseason to go by just a little bit faster. And we'll definitely have more to discuss next week. So make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. It helps the channel, helps Mark, helps us, and keep and share these live shows with your friends. I don't think we talk about that enough. Yeah, sharing it does numbers too. So if you guys know a lot of Clemson fans, or even just fans of college football in general that are looking to listen to a new show, send this one to them, because the more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. We try to get on here and entertain you guys and talk about college football and talk about Clemson football as much as we can. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Tigers J, absolutely. Yes, it is every Thursday at 7 p.m. Please come join us. We would appreciate it. Share the video. Share the video. Please hit that like button. Again, we appreciate it. We're trying to grow the channel. We're trying to do our best to entertain you guys and talk about Clemson football. And we get sidetracked on so many things once we turn it over to you guys at the end of the show. And we really appreciate that. So hit that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already.
Absolutely. And and make sure the hard take got in. So make sure they press all on the bell. Yeah. So hit that notification bell, and don't leave it on personalized, because personalized it's kind of hit or miss whether or not you're going to get notifications for when we go live. Hit all, so that way you get notified every single time we go live, because that's something that definitely helps a lot.
Hit that bell. Also support the main channel, support all the other team channels that are out there. John's in the chat. He does great things over on the Michigan channel, so on and so forth, for all the other channels under the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers brand. So we appreciate that. But without further ado, guys, we will see you next Thursday right here at 7 p.m. Until that time, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. We'll see you next week.
Later, y'all.